I'm Mr. Kangas, and today we're going to talk about Chapter 6, Section 1, Ratios. We're going to do two things in this video. We're going to talk about what ratios are, and we're going to talk about how to express a ratio as a fraction. And I guess we'll actually be doing the third thing, which is explaining what we can do with the fraction form of a ratio. First things first, though, is what does a ratio look like? Ratios will look like this. You'll see a number, colon, and another number. And a ratio is simply a comparison of two objects. How do these two objects affect each other, or in terms of quantity, or in other words, in terms of how much you have? So for example, what I mean by that is this is a 2-to-1 ratio, apples to oranges. So there's a 2 apples to 1 orange ratio. So what that's telling me is that for every 2 apples I have 1 orange. Now that's not telling me I have 2 apples and I have 1 orange. It's telling me that I have, this one is telling me I have twice as many apples as I do oranges. So every time I get 2 apples, I also get 1 orange. So, you know, I could possibly have 30 apples and 15 oranges. This is a 2-to-1 ratio because I still have twice as many apples as I do oranges. I could have 3 apples and 1.5 oranges. Again, it's a 2-to-1 ratio. I still have twice as many apples as I do oranges. And what you're going to notice about these ratios and how you know you still have a 2-to-1 ratio here is if you take these ratios and put them in the fraction form. If I put my apples on top, my oranges on bottom, apples on top, oranges on bottom, 30 and 15, right? Apples on top, oranges on bottom. What you're going to notice is all of these ratios are actually equal. If you take 2 divided by 1, you get 2. 30 divided by 15, it's 2. 3 divided by 1.5, it's 2. So again, I have 2 times as many apples as I do oranges. Now, not all ratios are as simple and easy to see and visualize as a 2-to-1 ratio where you have twice as many apples as oranges. Some ratios might look like this, for example. I might have a 3-to-4 ratio. You know, I might have, for every 3 apples I may have 4 oranges. So I don't actually have 3 times as many, or 2 times as many, or 5 times as many of something. I actually have, for every 3 apples I have 4 oranges. So I actually have 4/3 as many oranges as I do apples, or I have 3/4 as many apples as I do oranges. So there's two ways to look at this ratio. This is telling me that I either have 3/4 as many apples as oranges, okay? Which means I actually, if I have 3/4 as many apples as oranges, that actually means I have less apples than oranges, and you can see that very clearly here. 3 apples, 4 oranges. Because 3/4 is the decimal 0.75, and when you multiply by a number that's less than 1, you actually get a smaller answer. So just like when I have twice as many apples as oranges, I would multiply the number of, so like for example, if I have twice as many apples as I do oranges, if I multiply the oranges by 2, I get the apples. If I have 3/4 the number of apples as oranges, then when I multiply 4 by 3/4, I get 3. Just like I have twice as many apples as oranges up here, I multiply this by 2, or twice, and I get 30. So there are 2 ways of looking at this ratio. You either have 3/4 as many apples as oranges, or you can say I have 4/3 as many oranges as I do apples. So I don't have the same number of oranges as apples. I don't have twice as many oranges as apples. I actually have something in between. 4/3, if you turn it into a mixed number, is actually 1 and 1/3. So I actually have 1 and 1/3 times as many. oranges as apples. So it's not quite twice as much, and it's not the same amount. It's somewhere in between. So for example, if I wanted to continue this, I could say instead of a 3 to 4 ratio, I could also write a 6 to 8 ratio. For every 6 apples I have 8 oranges. This ratio is the same as this ratio. So, because if I took 6/8 and 3/4, you'll find that they are equal. This reduces to that. 6/8 reduces to 3/4. So they are the same ratio. There's just different ways of saying the same thing. So given this information we have over here, when I have a 3 to 4 ratio, it's telling me one of two things. Okay? It is telling me that I have 3/4 as many apples as oranges, so 3/4 as many apples as oranges, or I have 4/3 as many oranges as apples. Okay? So with that information, what can I do with that information? I'm going to move my ratio over here so I have a little bit more room. Okay? What I can do with that information is, if I know that I have 3/4 as many apples as oranges, and let's say I was given the number of oranges that I have. You were told, let's say that I have, we'll go with 24 oranges. What you could do with this information is, if you know I have 24 oranges, and you know that I have 3/4 as many apples as I do oranges, you would take that 24 and multiply it by 3/4, and that would get you the number of apples that I have. Because what this is going to do is, this is going to find you, when you multiply 3/4 by 24, this will find you what 3/4 of 24 is equal to. So I'll find you 3/4 of 24, which is how many apples I have. I have 3/4 as many apples as oranges. So if I have 24 oranges, that means my apples is equal to 3/4 of that. So multiplying 24 by 3/4 will get me the number of apples. Now let's say somebody told me how many apples I have, or somebody told you how many apples I have. Okay, let's say they told you that I had 18 apples. Okay, then you would take the number of apples I have and multiply it by 4/3, because I have 4/3 as many oranges as I do apples. Okay, and so what this is going to do is, this is going to take my number of apples, and it's going to tell you what 4/3 of 18 is. Or it's going to tell you what 1 1/3 of 18 is. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than 18, because I'm multiplying it by something that's a little bigger than 1. 18 times 1 is 18, so anything bigger than 1 will get me an answer bigger than 18. Okay? So it's really important when you're doing this that you understand that if I have a 3 to 4 ratio of apples to oranges, I have less apples than oranges. Right? Something key to understand. You want to make sure you check your answers to make sure they make sense. If you're not sure if you need to multiply 18 by 4/3 or 3/4, then multiply it out. Okay, take the time to do that. Multiply it out. Okay, and in this case, we'll get 18 times 4, which is 72 over 3. You can divide 3 into that, and so we can reduce this. So 10, 20, 4 over 1. So you know that if you have 18 apples, you have 24 oranges. Now, if you're not sure that you multiplied 18 by the right number, you weren't sure if you're supposed to multiply it by 4/3 or 3/4. Quick and easy way to check to see if you multiplied it by the right one. This number I got, when I multiplied 18 apples by 4/3, I was trying to figure out how many oranges I had, right? So if I want to figure, so this number right here is supposed to represent how many oranges I have. So all you got to do is ask yourself, is 24 bigger than 18? According to my ratio, I'm supposed to have more oranges than apples. So if I have more oranges here than I have apples here, then that means I probably multiplied it by the right form of the ratio. Okay? Because if I multiplied 18 by 3/4, I would have gotten an answer smaller than 18 for the oranges. In the oranges, I'm supposed to have more oranges. Okay? So that's some stuff that you can do with ratios. I'll do one more example of that. Okay, with a simpler ratio. We'll do a 3, or no, better yet, we'll do a 9 to 3 ratio, which if you reduce it becomes a 3 to 1 ratio. So what this is really telling me is that I have, and if we're working with apples and oranges again, okay, I have a 9 to 3 ratio, 9 apples to 3 oranges. So in other words, I have 3 times as many apples as I do oranges. Okay, that's what the ratio is telling me. It's telling me how my apples compare to my oranges, not how many I have, but how they compare to each other. So I have 3 times as many apples as oranges. So if you're told that I have, let's go with, we'll go 15 oranges, okay? I have 15 oranges, and you want to know how many apples I have. Well, you know that you're going to have more apples than you are oranges. So this is how many oranges I have, okay? So this should be the smaller number of the two, which means the number of apples I have should be bigger than 15. So now you have to ask yourself, do I need to multiply 15 by 9 over 3 or 3 over 9? Okay, which one of these is going to get me an answer bigger than 15? Probably the one with the bigger number on top. Okay, 9/3 is equal to 3, 3/9 is less than 1. You're going to want to go with the bigger number. So we're going to take 15, multiply it by 9/3, or if you had converted this ratio to 3 over 1, you could just do 15 times 3. That works as well, because these ratios, the 9 to 3 ratio is equal to the 3 to 1/8 ratio. They're the same thing. So you could use 9/3 or 3 over 1. Either one works. I'll do 9/3 for now. Right? And since 15 is a whole number, if we're going to multiply these two things, we're going to want to convert it to a fraction. The way you convert a whole number to a fraction is just put it over 1. You can do some cross-canceling here. So 3 goes into itself once, 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times 9, so now I'm going to do my multiplication straight across. 5 times 9 is 45. 1 times 1 is 1. So I have 15 oranges. I have 45 apples. Okay, so I did multiply it by the right form of the ratio because I started with 15 oranges, got 45 apples. So that's all there is to ratios in this video. Tune in for the next video, which will continue the ratios discussion on Chapter 6, Section 1.